All right. Hello, buddies. Okay, we're going to take a diversion today and we're going to talk about eating healthy. And it's part of our Health 2 curriculum because this is a year class. We cover Intro to Health Science and Health 2. So we're going to maybe be borrowing from both curriculums a little bit. So this comes from Health Ed 2, Standard 2, Objective 1. We're going to come back to the endocrine system next time. There will be a quiz. It's not going to be the one that's on there. I need to write it still. And then the time after that, I'm hoping to go into reproduction, but there's a little bit of an issue with the forms. So I may have to send that out again as an electronic signature form that your parents sign before I can actually teach it. So I just want to make sure my bases are covered before we go into that. But what a good time to talk about healthy eating when all of us are sort of grazing because we're home and maybe we get bored and there's an emotion there and then we eat. And so I'm like, we'll talk about healthy eating. So in the Health 2 curriculum, this is what is outlined in this objective. So we're going to cover these things. And actually, the curriculum is so dated that it has my pyramid on there. So I was like, meep. So I updated it a little bit. So if you look at the actual second bullet point, this is the updated version. My pyramid, I don't remember when that ended, but it was a long time ago. And then we'll just talk about making healthy eating choices. Okay, so I wanted to start off with some statistics and kind of let you know where Utah sits. So this is based on a survey that was self-reported. So based on the data, so they send out, I think they did it by call, and they're like, hey, are you overweight or obese? And they answered, it looks like pretty honestly. So there was no area that I can see that was under 20% obese. So I'm going to skip around for a second because I want you to see what obese means. So if we have our BMI, so remember our body mass index, is basically a height to weight measurement. And it was put together by insurance companies. I think it was back in like the 60s. And their idea was, well, when we have a normal weight person, they're cheaper to cover. Look for insurance companies to do stuff like that more and more often. It's just a way for them to save money, and they're all about the dollar. So we have a normal range here of 18.5 to 25 of a BMI, and overweight is 25 to 30. Obese, we're talking about 30 and above. And there is another line where it's like morbidly obese or super obese or something like that. But we'll just look at the green ones. So kind of winning right now is Hawaii, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. Winning. Good job there. But, the Western United States, look at us. We're in the 25 to 30% range of obese, which is still, 1 in 4 at least of us are obese. So remember, that's over 30. But then you get into like these orangey states, that's going to be 30 to 35. And then the red states, yikes. Careful. Maybe if you end up traveling there, take your own like chicken, pack it up. Okay, whoops, going the wrong way. Okay, this is some more data from that. So I'm just going to read this off, and sorry if that bores you, but 2017, 2018 age-adjusted prevalence of obesity in adults was 42.4%. There were no significant differences between men and women. That's a good chunk. So again, this isn't taking it state by state. If you look at Utah, we do a little bit better. We've got those mountains out there. We walk them. We run them. All of us are in them right now because we have a cool place to go. The age-adjusted prevalence of severe obesity, so that was super high obesity, was 9.2%, and it was higher in women than it was in men. And then among adults, both obesity and severe obesity was highest in non-Hispanic Black adults compared with other race and Hispanic origin groups. The prevalence of severe obesity was highest among adults aged 40 to 59. So that's right in my age range. And then from 1999 to 2000 through 2017 to 2018, that's the latest data we have. So this is coming from Health and Human Services and CDC. So actually, this one's from CDC, so the Centers for Disease Control. And then the prevalence of both obesity and severe obesity increased among adults. So we have a problem in our country with overweight and obesity, and it's not just something that affects the person themselves. It actually affects how many dollars are spent on healthcare. So it's in our vested interest to be the healthiest for our own like mental health, not to mention our physical health, but it's also for societal health. We need to be responsible about what we're putting into our bodies. Okay, so there it is again, the BMI chart. You can kind of see, I'm giving you a second to kind of see where you land. Let's see where I'm at. So I gotta go from like we'll go from the, I should be so much stronger on metrics, but I've got mine. So if you're under 25, you're good. Okay, how many calories should we be eating? So I'm going to just preempt this a little bit by saying I'm giving you some really basic kind of estimated calorie requirements. If you take sports medicine, that's another class that I teach. It's a college class. You get 3 credit hours, and we have a good solid time. You'll get your specific number. We'll actually delve into the BMR and your activity level a little more accurately. But just so you can kind of see, you guys are in the 14 to 18 range. If you don't do anything, so that means Disney Plus, Netflix, and chips all day, that's sedentary. That's kind of the calorie number you're looking at. This is for girls. If you're moderately active, and it's defined, I can't remember how they define it, but you can find it online. When you say activity level kind of charts, it'll give it to you. 2,000 is about what you need if you're moderately active. Add another 400 calories if you're active. For the boys, you can see that number is higher, so they can get way higher. And if you're in season, we talk about this in sports med. If you're in season, let's say you're playing football, that number can be so high. I've seen some as high as like 5,000 calories, and what they need, because their metabolism is revved, and they're working out a lot. So those are estimations, but just to give you kind of a ballpark idea, you're looking at around 2,000 calories. So what should those calories consist of? Well, we know that our body has essential nutrients that you have to have. You have to have it to live. So we have carbohydrates, and some examples of carbohydrates over here. So kind of the grains and breads. And I want you to think of it like this. The wider the bread, the sooner you're dead. That's what the dietitian I used to work with would say. The wider the bread, the sooner you're dead. It has to do with the glycemic index. Again, something we'll go into more depth in when we're in sports med. But just know that you have some healthy fiber that you can get from this category. You can also get good energy source. So your body's priority for energy starts with carbohydrates. It starts with essentially glucose, and then your body says, okay, if we're out of glucose, we go to glycogen, which is a stored form of carbohydrates. So our body's energy source primarily is going to come from carbohydrates, and then it's going to go, so carbohydrates go glucose, glycogen, and then it's going to go to fat. So it skips over protein, goes to fats, and it will use that as an energy source. And worst case scenario, if we're all out of carbs or all out of fat, then we'll use protein as an energy source. But protein is actually used for growth and repair. So it has kind of a different function. So here are some of the foods that are protein foods. So we're talking about meats and beans and nuts and eggs. Some dairy products have minimal. If you look at the protein content though, and a lot of it, protein is... because I deal with bodybuilders quite a bit, and protein is harder to get in than you think when you start to look at numbers. But protein is all about growth and repair of tissues. If you're still growing, you need protein. If you're working out and you're tearing your muscle down and you're trying to improve your overall fitness, you need protein. Then you got to have protein to help build that stuff back. And then we have fat. And a lot of people will be like, oh, take out the fat. That scares me. But realistically, we did that in the 90s. Our country was like, oh, the trick is because fat has more calories per gram, just don't eat fat. And so we replaced a lot of the fat and put in sugars, and people got fatter. So what they have found is actually fat acts to satiate your appetite. It makes it so it suppresses the appetite, and it also has some good healthy functions for things like joint health. So we need fats. So there's a certain there's a percentage that works, and again, more of a sports med lecture. We can get into how you can manipulate the macronutrients to give you the most bang for your buck, depending on what you're training for, if that makes sense. And then we also need some other things. We need trace amounts. So macronutrients just basically means we need large amounts of it. So micronutrients, if you break it down, they're saying, well, you need small amounts of these, and you need it to stave off things like scurvy and just some nutritional deficiencies that maybe the cells will not function as they can. So you can find vitamins in a lot of the produce that you eat. So we're talking about eating a variety of colors, eating it as close to its natural state as you possibly can, avoiding drenching it too much in dressings that maybe don't have nutritional value. And then we can get minerals from things like, I mean, if you think just calcium, you can kind of see that milk and dairy products will give you some good calcium. You need calcium for bone growth. You need calcium for every muscle contraction that you have. So yeah, we've got to eat just a wide variety of colors of fruits and vegetables really pack a huge punch. You need to just, if you're not eating any vegetables, it's time to start throwing some in there. And then water. We have to have water. That's the one nutrient. If we go without, that's the fastest one that will kill you. But there are different recommendations. The best one, and the one that I would maybe track the most, and is just look at your urine. And if your urine is clear to pale yellow, you're golden. If it's any kind of Davis high color,
gross,
drink some more water, because neither of those colors are good, are they? Okay, the next thing in the curriculum that it asks for, it basically says, Kate, we'll show them some resources. What has the government done to show its young people how to eat? So they tried to simplify it as much as possible, and they were like, all right, here's how I want you to fill out your plate. So first of all, we should pay attention to the size of the plate, because we could have a size that's, like a smaller plate. I don't know if you can even say like a smaller plate, but we have some pretty monstrous plates out there. I remember my husband and I, we go to Moab as often as we can. We go 2 to 3 times a year. And there used to be a great little Mexican restaurant down there that every single time we would hit it at least once and sometimes twice, depending on how long we stayed. But it closed down. I think they've reopened it since, but we went to another place. We're like, well, here's another Mexican restaurant. And the portion sizes, they pulled out these plates that were like for 3 people, I guess, but it was a huge plate. I just ordered this, and you end up with a whole plate of just, I don't know. It just looks like a bunch of throw-ins. But it was garbage. It was garbage food. It was just a lot more of it. And yeah, you can save yourself a lot of calories just by picking the right size plate. But so pick a normal size plate, and then they're saying like fill up about 25% with grains. Okay, so we want to hit the carbohydrates with that. Get your protein source here, not quite a quarter of the plate. So you can see grains takes up a little more room. And then we have a little more vegetables than fruits. Those are going to give you more carbs and some micronutrients and some minerals that you need. So, and then they round it out with dairy. And there are a lot of people that take issue with the whole dairy aspect. This is put together by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So there is a little bit of a vested interest from milk producers and basically agriculture producers. But honestly, if you're eating like this, it's going to be better than the way most Americans are eating. So I actually stamp of approval. It's not my favorite. I'll show you some others that I like a little better. Okay. Another thing that we have is food labels. So they have basically made it illegal for you to throw out a food source without telling people like what's in this food. So there are some like supplements and things that don't require approval and things like that. But if you're looking at like your box of cereal, if you're looking at your applesauce or whatever it is you're eating, there should be nutrition information at least on the original box. So look for that. Okay, so on these food labels, you're going to see up at the top, it's going to give you a serving size. So if right off the bat, if this is from a box of cereal, I don't know why I went with cereal today, but if it's from a box of cereal and you pour yourself a big full bowl of it, you might already be getting more of what the serving size is. So you kind of have to think about your portions, and you have to go like, well, what actually is a cup? And it may be helpful the first couple of times you have a food to measure it out so you can get a visual for this is an actual serving. And if you're more comfortable with a serving and a half or 2 servings, you can be like, okay, I'm getting 2 servings of this. But this will tell you what the serving size is, and then it's going to break down the nutrients. It's going to say, well, how much fat do we have? And how much does that actually give you percentage-wise of your daily calorie intake? This is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So there's your fat. 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories per gram. So that's what you're getting from this, is about 9 calories from fat, whatever this food is. I just found this one online. So there's some optional labeling. They'll include a little bit more of the mineral content. For every muscle contraction, we basically have sodium and potassium switching places. So we need these minerals, but they don't necessarily have to put those in. There's a breakdown of fat. Here's some other nutrients. We've got carbohydrate here, protein here. So macronutrients, 1, 2, 3. Micronutrients, all these, and also these little minerals up here. So this should help you to form decisions that are healthy decisions and help you to kind of go, is this worth putting in my body or not? Okay, so food labels, pay attention. Okay, and I finally in this section of the curriculum, it says, throw out some community resources that kids can go look at. I'm going to go ahead and say, go to choosemyplate.gov if you want to just be like, well, how am I supposed to eat healthy? They actually have different little files. Like, what if you have questions about how much carbs you should be eating and how much of this you should be eating. One thing that I really like from Choose My Plate is they talk about your grains. And they said, make half your grains whole grains, at least half. You should try and get even more than that, but they're trying to get you to eat healthier carbohydrates. And I thought, oh, that's a good move. We also have, there's this, I didn't include a graphic on here, but this is from Health and Human Services from our government as well. And they have some healthy eating data on there if you wanted to go look at it. I would say my 2 favorite meal, like community resources that I've seen. One of them comes from a different country altogether. So the Mediterranean diet, I think, is really good. I should have put that on here, but I was trying to be like, well, I'm just doing the American stuff. And I went with Harvard. I love Harvard's eating plates. So they actually kind of took the My Plate idea, but they actually went, they have no vested interest in dairy or just the way things grow and everything. They're actually more interested in, well, what's actually the healthiest for your body. And if I were to pick a community resource that I think is optimal, I would say this is it. So they've got whole grains, healthy protein. Looks a lot like My Plate, only they're saying more vegetables and fruits than what they wanted. Okay, they're kind of evening out the protein and the grains here, maybe a little bit less of the grains. And instead of the milk, they're saying actually drink water. You don't need to get a lot of calories from your drinks. And that might be something that cuts out enough that you see changes. And they're saying like include healthy oils if you're wanting to like spice up your fruits and vegetables. Healthy oils. Don't put on, unfortunately, this is one of my favorites. If I had to pick a dressing, I really like ranch, and it's terrible for you. So they're saying like, no, use some healthy oils. That'll be better for your heart, for your vessels, basically for your body. So I like this one. Okay, and I wanted to share with you apps, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like I've tried these two, so I know there are a million out there, but the one I stick with, and I track my calories every day. I'm kind of a nut. I track my fitness. I track my meditation. I track all of it. I'm kind of a weirdo, but I use my MyFitnessPal every single day, and I actually get the pay version because I like it, because it will actually, if I put in macronutrient goals, which I have some fitness goals that I'm trying to reach, I can see like how much protein I've had, how many carbohydrates I've had, and I can set goals that are specific for what I want. So if I were to tell you my favorite app for tracking nutrition, it's going to be MyFitnessPal. I've used the one called Lose It, and both of these have free versions that you can use. And once you get used to tracking it, here, I'll just show you what I have for lunch today if you can see it. Nope. Oh, yep, there it is. So PB&J, baby, and I did it on a wheat bread. I had some pickles and applesauce, and it breaks it down. If you look at the top part, carbs 36% fat. I'm not doing too hot on my protein, but yeah, it'll break it down. And once you start to put different foods in, it will start to like guess at what you're going to put in, because we tend to eat a lot of the same things. So it's easier to track once you get started. So there's some healthy tips, healthy living. Hope you're doing good out there. Had the best day today because I got to go deliver some signs to seniors. Made me feel kind of teachery again, like I matter. It's hard to be an at-home IT professional is kind of what this feels like. It's been a little disheartening, and I've kind of gotten down on myself a little bit about it. It was so good to go out there and just be like, a sign for you and treats, just throw it out there. I miss you guys. You need to know that I miss you, and there's nothing I would want more than to just be in the classroom again with you. So we'll see you again on Friday. I think my plan for endocrine system will work, and then we'll get into reproduction a little bit later. Thanks.